you all shouldn't be surprised that I'm reading ahead. Hey, it's Romania Black. Oh, I know, but look. It's volume 5 of Heaven Official's Blessing, and the last of chapters 140 to 142. How could I not, on that cliffhanger, read ahead? How could I not? No, I couldn't help it. And we didn't get confirmation about Mu Qing, if he is Fu Yao, what the deal is. We didn't get confirmation, so I was like, I kind of wanted to read ahead to see if maybe we do get confirmation or not. And then Jun Woo has shown up and has wanted Xilian to take his place in the Heavenly Realm, which seems like the worst idea possible, but we're at such desperate times that Jun Woo feels like it's necessary because he thinks he has to go to Mount Tonglu to stop the ghost and try to not get a strong ghost to become the new Supreme. Last set of chapters, I was so enthralled and was so just enamored by the writing that I could not stop. And I had so much fun reading it, and you just felt like I felt like Jian Lan. I felt like her character embodying it, and then Qirong and everything. It was so good, and the drama, the emotions, it was like, and so I'm like, well, now you can't just stop. Can't just stop. No. Why would we think that? So I do have some comments that I want to get to before starting, though, before we go any further. I do have some comments that were lingering from a few chapters ago that I wanted to talk about. And one was from way back when Xilian was posing as the woman to confuse the monks. And it didn't hit me until I was editing, until people commented, but SQQLBH314 noted that the silver chain around the choker Xilian's wearing as the woman is the necklace with the ring that Hua Cheng gave him. And I was like, yes, that makes sense now. So I remember noticing it in the editing, but I forgot to mention it in the discussion, the reaction. So I felt like bringing it up here. But also apparently Hua Cheng as a kid poking holes to make peepholes is like a reference of something that happens. It's a trope in a lot of other Chinese stories, which I didn't realize. So I thought that was really cool to point out. And then Anime Annie adds to that, saying that Hua Cheng poking the holes through the doors and everything could be a sign that it's not just Hua Cheng's appearance that is more childlike, that maybe in the process of regressing into this childlike state, Hua Cheng has regained a little bit of his childlike attitude, which I'm okay with. I'm fine with that. It makes him a little bit more mischievous, which I like a lot. As my dogs go crazy, they're also Hualien fans. But I also like the idea of, Anime Annie pointed out that MXTX has a tendency to bring in some like real world modern issues into her fantasy romance. And one of the things that she brings up is the service industry with Qirong's restaurant, right? And we've seen MXTX do that, not only with like the cell phones, the Wi-Fi, all that, but now we have the service industry being represented by the ghosts that were working for Qirong at the inn. So I thought that was really cool. I like MXTX just adding that little layer of realism to her horror romance fantasy. And then Qirong, talking about how he knew how to cook. Anime Annie pointed out that Qirong could have grown up, he wasn't pampered like Xilian was, so there's a very distinct possibility that he grew up around a kitchen and kitchen staff and saw them making food and kind of learned from them possibly, right? There's a big possibility that has happened in the story, which I thought was really interesting, right? And then finally, Sarah Linda points out that Qirong, interestingly enough, brings out the humanity in Xilian. That Xilian tries to act like, the saint that he is, the precious cinnamon bun deity, but then it takes family like Qirong to bring out the true humanity in Xilian that still remains, and showing that Xilian can get flustered just like anybody else. And Qirong is the one that does it for him. And so I thought that was a really good point to bring up. But also, Sarah Linda brought up a good point too, like the state of the father at this point. Like, if Qirong gets taken out of the dad's body and stops possessing him, what state is that dad gonna be in? Like, he's gonna be in an awful state, because he's had to eat people, he's had, like, knives in his mouth, he's been, like, almost had his arm broken, like, he's been for a row. So, I'm very curious if MXTX is gonna, like, keep Qirong in his body forever, and that just is gonna be a thing, or if when he takes Qirong out of the body's just going to die because it was just too much, or if at some point it just like is osmosis and merges together. MXTX can do whatever she wants with this story. I'm just along for the ride. So I'm very curious what the resolution of that is going to be. And then finally, Sarah Linda said that in terms of talking about how Mu Qing's palace and everything was suspended, her theory was that it was just a barrier put up, like a protective barrier to keep people from getting out, which would make sense, right? But still doesn't explain how Fu Yao got out. So that's still all up in the air. I think it's Mu Qing. I'm pretty sure that we all think it's Mu Qing at this point, but I couldn't wait to get to these chapters. I just couldn't. I was like, we end with Hua Cheng saying, "What? Who says there's no other way that we can go about this?" So I find it hard to believe that Shi Lian is going to be assigned the actual role June wants him to be assigned, because that would make for a very boring rest of the story. Although it would be fun for a couple chapters to see Shi Lian try to like maintain order in the heavenly realm, I do think it would devolve into chaos. So I'm going to be curious to see what Hua Cheng's proposition was, what he suggested, what Junwoo says about it, and where we go to from here. But we are looking at chapters 143 to 145 today in this story, and I'm really, really excited. I feel like this volume has been a roller coaster so far. We got a good chunk done last week, but we're still barely into the story, and I'm so freaking excited to see where we go to from here. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. I hope you all are as well. But yeah, we're not gonna waste any more time. We're gonna dive right in and see what all we get. So with that being said, we are gonna start Heaven Official's Blessing, chapters 143 to 145, part 46. And we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and oh y'all, let's get to this. Chapter 143, the gates open at Mount Tonglu, the assembly of millions of ghosts. The next day, Shi Lian and Hua Cheng began their journey. What? No, you better backtrack and tell us some stuff, story. Don't you do this, trope. Don't you do this. Hua Cheng was holding Shi Lian's hand and spoke up. Gege, the next time you see Junwoo, don't talk to him. Turn around and run away. Why? I just know that every time he comes looking for you, it's never for anything good. Him saying that, right? Shi Lian laughed. What do you mean? The work he originally assigned me wasn't this. However, Hua Cheng said, it's the same thing. Whether it's going to Mount Tonglu or helping him manage the heavens, neither are good assignments. The upper court is in complete shambles now. Might as well let it break up. Throwing that pile of mud on your lap, what's up with that? It's no different than choosing between a sword and a knife to commit suicide. Okay. Shi Lian couldn't help but laugh, but after laughing, he said soberly, still, I didn't think that you would volunteer to accompany me to Mount Tonglu. I've been thinking for a while and feel this should be said. San Long, absolutely don't force yourself. He kept feeling that Hua Cheng only volunteered to come because he knew what Shi Lian was thinking. After all, Shi Lian really felt like rather than managing the heavens and doing what he wasn't good at, it'd be much more gratifying to get locked up in a kiln and killed to his heart's content. However, Hua Cheng said, Gege, I've already sworn 3 times I'm not forcing myself. Do you not believe me? Of course that's not it, Shi Lian said. Hua Cheng nodded. Then just relax, Gege. I know my limits. Don't feel like you owe me anything. Even looking at it completely from my own position, I wouldn't mind stuffing the new Ghost King back in before it's born either. Okay, yeah, we talked about this in the last reaction discussion. Yes. As it was now, the present Ghost Kings and the heavens all benefited mutually. There was only so much rice, and everyone wanted a bite. There was already not enough to go around, and there was friction at times. To add another one to the mix to share the pot, no one was willing. Besides, if this new one had an extreme character, then if they went mad, no one would have anything left to eat. Yeah, okay, so yeah, it is beneficial for everyone for there not to be a new Ghost King. Don't need any more. Got enough. Don't need to add another one. Right? Okay. After Junwoo listened to Hua Cheng's suggestion, he considered it seriously. Okay, we're going back to this. Good. If Shi Lian was to go alone, it certainly wouldn't be as adequate as if he went himself. But if it was Shi Lian with a demon king who had once journeyed through Mount Tonglu himself, then this combination would certainly have more odds in their favor. Of course, Hua Cheng wouldn't be going for nothing. Junwoo agreed to his terms. Until the next time Mount Tonglu reopened, all of heaven must detour around the ghost city. Also, the entire court must announce the heroic deeds of the Crimson Rainsop flower and sing songs of praise for an entire year. Shilian tried to imagine it, and it was probably something to the effect of, "You bunch of foolish heavenly officials, do you know who saved you?" This is practically tormenting the heavenly officials, who were already wary of Hua Cheng and bore complicated feelings towards him and stepping on their faces. Hua Cheng smiled. "With me around, this journey will be much easier for you." Pulling himself back, Shilian replied, "I still think we should go after your period of aggravation. We should go after your period of aggravation is over, after you've returned to your normal self." "You don't need to worry about that either. It'll be soon," Hua Cheng said. Shilian was taken aback. "Huh? What is it? Gege, what's that face?" Hua Cheng questioned. Shilian said dejectedly, "Does that mean Sanlong's gonna grow up?" Hua Cheng clenched his fists by his sides. "Yes, I've endured this for too long. I can't wait anymore." Yet unexpectedly, just as soon as he finished talking, Shilian lifted him up. He raised him high into the air with his arms and laughed. "It'll be such a shame! I won't be able to lift you up anymore after you grow up, so I best hug you as much as I can now." On the way to Mount Tonglu, they weren't able to use a distance shortening array and could only walk. Over 10 days later, the two finally left towns and signs of life far behind them and entered a mountainous area with endless fields of lush green forests. The deeper they entered the woods, the more monsters and demons they saw on the road, the bands of them growing bigger and thicker, their shapes and forms bizarre, sneaking and hurrying. Shilian walked with Hua Cheng in hand and whispered, "So many have come." The gathering this time certainly is bigger than before. It's because the heavens didn't put up a barricade. So many who weren't planning on coming wound up doing so, Hua Cheng said. However, there weren't only lone ghosts. There were many that came in groups. After a while, Shilian and Hua Cheng ran into a large group of ragged and disheveled ghosts. Their faces savage, they were marching in a parade, chanting, "The world be a kiln, the souls be copper, deep waters and fires burn, adversaries buried within. The world be kiln, the souls be copper, deep waters and fires burn, adversaries buried within." I wonder if the deep waters is like the black water and the fires burn is Hua Cheng. Listening to their hollering, not only did they not sound afraid, they sounded eager. But hearing their chant, Hua Cheng's expression grew frigid. They don't even understand what they're saying, but they definitely shout louder than anybody. Thinking of it, many of these monsters and demons had never experienced this trial before and didn't understand the cruelty of it. Taking the becoming of supreme as something easily achievable, all of them were filled with heroic determination, bringing displeasure to the one who was experienced. Can they also come banded in groups? Those are typically ones who knew each other already and planned to charge the mountain together, swearing to show mercy for each other. However, none of those promises will be kept. Fighting to the end, the more killed, the stronger you get. The more you save, the less chance you have to survive. The easiest target is often the ones closest to you. Ooh, there's lots to talk about with this. Then he knitted his brows slightly, covering his right eye, seeming to have another headache coming on. Shilian quickly grabbed him and hid behind the trees on the side. He crouched down, feeling concerned. "Sanglong, we're about to enter the mountain. Are you sure you'll be all right?" Easing his brows, he replied, "Don't worry, Gege. Everything's fine. It'll be better soon." How could Shilian not be worried simply because he said so? Hua Cheng then added, "Gege, come closer. I have something to tell you." Shilian didn't know what he was planning, so he drew his face closer. Hua Cheng cupped his face with his hands, and he lightly touched his forehead with his own. Shilian blinked and was stunned. He waited until Hua Cheng released him before he started. "Sanlong, what are you?" Hua Cheng smiled, done. "It's all ghosts and demons here. Gege is a heavenly official, so your scent would be very conspicuous. This will help cover it a little." So that was what it was. He was staining Shilian with his scent. Very Omegaverse, right? Shilian couldn't help but remember how the two exchanged spiritual powers and air between them, and he was afraid Hua Cheng would be reminded too. He quickly said, "All right, let's put on a disguise." In order to blend in with the millions of ghosts, naturally they must go in disguise. However, it wasn't anything more than draping on a cloak. There were already plenty of ghosts and monsters who had donned masks and cloaks, so it wasn't odd. The two dressed simply, and Shilian held Hua Cheng's hand as they slowly continued on their way. After a while, there was a faint noise of a commotion ahead on the road. Unsure of what was happening, Shilian asked, "Is there anything like a landmark that tells you when you've entered Mount Tonglu?" "There is, but don't trust it." He was about to continue his questions, but the commotion ahead was growing louder. When the two exited the forest, it turned out there was a large blackened crowd of at least 300 to 400 monsters and demons stuck before a steep bluff. However, this number was but the tip of the iceberg for the turnout of the gathering this time. Why is the road blocked? Did we go the wrong way? They can't be. Didn't they say any road will lead to Mount Tonglu? Perhaps because they weren't yet within the boundaries of Mount Tonglu and the slaughtering hadn't officially begun, but the crowd of ghosts was still mostly peaceful. Shilian found a random ghost on the side and asked casually, "Oh, what's going on over there?" The ghost yelled, "Oh, you got eyes, can't you see for yourself? There's a mountain in the way, we can't get through." Shilian took a look at this ghost next to him. Half its head was sliced off, and truly it was the one that didn't have eyes to see. But Shilian wasn't going to say anything. He only said, "Well, can't we go around?" Just then several ghosts rushed over from the other side, spitting their tongues. "The hell, this mountain is evil. We've ran around for over an hour and still saw no end of it. I had to run for over an hour to come back." The ghost turned to Shilian. "No." "Well, can't we climb up or fly over?" Just then as the words left his lip, a large 7-foot bird whoosh fell from the sky, crashing heavily onto the ground, practically dropped dead on the spot. A ghost cried out, "Dead! The bird spirit died from exhaustion and still couldn't fly over." The ghost turned to Shilian. "No." "Then can't we..." Before he could complete his question, the ghosts all shushed him like they really wished to seal his mouth shut. "Stop asking, you loud mouth." "All right." Shilian complied. Hundreds of ghosts and demons were blocked by this unpassable, unhikeable, uncrossable mountain bluff, and various voices of endless tones buzzed, exceedingly noisy. Some said, "I get it, it's not a typical mountain, it's a screen." Some said, "Everyone, after crossing this mountain, Mount Tonglu must be right beyond. This mountain is probably the first trial before entering the mountain. If we can't pass even a simple test like this, there's no need to even think about what would come afterward. We might as well go home." Wait, what? Why do I smell something funny?" "What smell? You sure it's not that human meat you got with you?" No, it's not the flesh of the dead, it's the flesh of the living. No, that's not right either. It's rather the smell of a heavenly official." The moment those words rolled out, a wave of alarm was raised, and the crowd of ghosts all cried, "Well, you're shitting me! Why would there be a heavenly official? Oh, I smell it too! How come we don't smell anything here?" Now that y'all are talking about it, it does feel like that too. Did a heavenly official sneak in? Impossible. What heavenly official is so audacious to come to a place like this? With all the voices calling out, an alarm exploded in all directions. Shilian was feeling some trepidation, but still his face next gave anything away. That's a weird word reading. Hua Cheng had helped him cover up the scent earlier, so why would there still be any scent? No one should have snuck in. Hua Cheng held his hand and whispered, "Gege, be careful. Something is stirring the pot and creating chaos on purpose. It's possible that other than me, there are other heavenly officials that have snuck in." Just then, the ghost that was the first to mention the smell of humans jumped onto a boulder. "Everyone, maybe those god-forsaken heavenly officials in the heavenly realm saw they couldn't stop us en route, and so they sent forth people to come to Mount Tonglu to ruin our celebration. I suggest everyone wearing masks or cloaks or heavy layers to strip them off for now, so whoever has spiritual aura be immediately discovered. Everyone, announce your titles one by one. Don't give them the chance to sneak in among us." The crowd of ghosts all applauded the idea, and the ghost continued, "I'll go first. I'm the demon of swift, life-extinguishing blade, the decapitation blade of an executioner. There's only ever the one blade for killing and chopping off heads." In Shilian's experience, typically the more exaggerated the title, with names like Unparalleled, Thousand Hands, Mighty, or Life-Extinguishing, and so on, the easier they were to wipe out. Usually with just a single move. Sometimes 3 could be wiped out with a single move. Immediately, there were hundreds of titles being thrown out noisily, and he shook his head as he listened. Suddenly, a ghost next to him elbowed him. "Hey, why haven't you stripped off your cloak yet? What are you?" It wasn't like he meant it disrespectfully. If he wasn't human, then he could only be called a what, so that didn't seem wrong. In fact, there are plenty of other ghosts that didn't remove their cloaks and masks. There was one even close to Shilian, watching them with their arms crossed. But the one called out first was Shilian. And seeing that all eyes were on him, he accepted his own bad luck and took off the cloak, speaking gently, "I'm a puppet master." Oh. The ghost all approached and circled around. "I see. No wonder you look so much like a human. This is my first time seeing a puppet master." Shilian smiled without speaking. A puppet master was a ghost with a very weak essence of evil. In order to create the perfect puppet, they would experiment with all different kinds of materials, so it wasn't strange to have been stained with different kinds of scents. Since they particularly fancied the skin of humans, the sin of humans was usually heavy on their bodies. The dream of puppet masters was to pull out hair from a heavenly official to make wigs for their puppets, and some even daring enough to try. Thus, it wasn't also strange if there was a scent of heavenly officials. A ghost asked, "Then where's your puppet?" Shilian scanned the crowd and then bent down to lift Hua Cheng up. The ghosts were all in awe. "Wow, so exquisite. What material did you use? Oh, it looks so real. It feels like you're going to be a tough competitor." "How is it real? It looks rather fake. Isn't the skin too white? Why would kids have such long lashes?" Although Hua Cheng had his arms crossed and was expressionless, there were still many female ghosts with unmoving hearts that were struck by his looks. "Oh, I'm dying. What a handsome puppet." "Master, do you take commissions? Can I order one exactly the same? We can talk price." Some even reached out and tried to pet, unable to stop themselves. Shilian immediately brought his arm back into his arms and the ghosts were miffed. "So stingy, treasuring him so much. You won't even let us touch." Shilian's left arm held Hua Cheng even tighter, and his right hand brushed his hair. "Of course. This is my puppet. Besides, he's got quite the temper. No one but me can touch him, otherwise he'll get very angry." Oh, Hua Cheng raised his brows in his arms, and the ghosts all laughed out loud. "Oh, he can even raise his brows. He's got attitude." Just then, there was suddenly a voice that spoke up. "I don't think that's it." Oh my God! Okay. Oh, so there's a heavenly official among them, right? Chapter 144, the gates open at Mount Tonglu, the assembly of millions of ghosts, too. Shilian turned to look, and the one who had spoken was that swift, life-extinguishing blade. He accused the scent of humans on you as a little too heavy. The crowd of ghosts all chided. "He's a puppet master, it's understandable. He's got essence of evil on him, too." Swift, life-extinguishing blade countered. No, look closer, everyone. The essence of evil is on this puppet master. It doesn't feel like it's emitted from within, more like it's died from the outside. To only dye essence of evil on the surface should have been passable originally, but once it became the point of focus for the crowd of ghosts, the detail would be magnified. The swift, life-extinguishing blade didn't look like he was very smart at first, similar to the Heaven's Eye. Shilian had taken him for an insignificant little side character, but who knew he wasn't that easy to deceive? A ghost piped up, "You look like you're well-versed in this, so is there anything concrete to your words? How do we tell? You got any ideas?" The life-extinguishing blade replied, "Yes. There's a tool that can determine just exactly what he is." From his sleeve, he pulled out an object. The moment the crowd of ghosts saw it, they instantly backed away. "Oh, you have a yellow talisman on you! You're sure you're not a heavenly official?" "Wait." He explained earnestly, "No, I killed some cultivators on the way here and took their belongings, that's all. These are just typical yellow talismans for dealing with little ghosts and irrelevant little minions. Since everyone made it here, I'm sure these talismans would do nothing to you. Watch. Is this Fuyao / Mu Ching? Is that who it really is?" Then he slapped that yellow talisman on his forehead. Crackle, crackle, the yellow talisman burnt up into a wisp of black smoke on his face, leaving a black ashen mark on his forehead. "Even though this talisman can't do anything to me, I can at least prove my identity. Something like a paper talisman could be used to deal with ghosts and demons. But on the flip side, it could also be used to identify whether a person was, in fact, a person." Swift, life-extinguishing blade pointed at Shilian. "If you're really a puppet master, then stick this yellow talisman on your forehead. We'll see whether it leaves a mark." Shilian didn't show any reaction, but his mind was spinning rapidly. However, Hua Cheng whispered, "Don't worry, Keke." Thus, Shilian knew that Hua Cheng was confident in his chances. He put Hua Cheng down and approached easily, took the talisman and pressed it to his forehead. There was a crackle and the yellow talisman burnt into a wisp of black smoke. However, after the smoke had cleared, Shilian's forehead was unmarred, not a trace left behind. This proved the essence of evil in his person was only dyed on the surface. Other than the cloaked figure with his crossed arms, hundreds of ghosts instantly surrounded them, yelling and howling, looking like they were ready to bring all sorts of bizarre weapons. But then they were all instantly repelled by an invisible barrier. The crowd of ghosts was stunned. Well, pretty skilled too." Shilian flipped open his hands. "I didn't do anything." Just then Hua Cheng, who was standing behind him, spoke. He approached with his fists at his side. "You bunch of unlearned country bumpkin ghosts. What are you all so prized for? And you're a man of the world, little ghost baby. It ain't a lie that he ain't got essence of evil on him. Just hurry all, declare yourselves now." Hua Cheng answered, "What a bunch of fools. Of course there's none on his body, because I'm the real puppet master. Oh! Just as the words left his lips, the crowd of ghosts could sense an exceedingly haunting chill blow past them, like an entire field was going to freeze. Even with their cool bodies, they shuddered. What's going on? Giving you all a taste of the world, that's all, Hua Cheng said. He rescinded his aura, and the crowd of ghosts finally stopped shivering. The swift life-extinguishing blade questioned, feeling trepidation. If you're the puppet master and he's also a puppet master, then who's the real one? No, it can't be him, so what kind of person is he? Before Hua Cheng responded, Shilian smiled. Obviously the kind that belongs to him. Oh my god! Shilian, do you know what you're saying? The crowd of ghosts were befuddled for a moment, then it finally dawned on them. So it's the opposite. He's the master and you're the puppet. The swift life-extinguishing blade was suspicious. Then why did you say you were the puppet master earlier? What's the intention of your lie? Hua Cheng smiled because I thought it'd be amusing. Shilian smiled too. That's right. Master finding it amusing is the most important reason. Oh my god! Shilian, do you realize what you are doing? You flirts! After the female ghosts got over their initial shock, they tucked away their long claws and tongues and started circling around Shilian anew, examining him. For some reason, the commentary from the female ghosts directed him to a completely different flavor than when they were checking out Hua Cheng. Somehow they sounded more bold. So this little Gege is the real puppet. I like this age better now. I want one even more. Are you sure you don't take orders? Shilian replied gently. Oh, thank you for your affection, but I'm actually very old. This material is human skin, right? The treatment is done fairly cleanly. There isn't any of that stinking rancid musk of men from those burly brutes. Master, how do you manage the maintenance? Do you use perfume? It's human skin, Shilian replied. No perfumes, just bathe frequently and drink lots of water. Oh, it feels like this puppet can do many things, all sorts of things. Both the face and body look pretty good, eh? Looks like the feel of his skin is nice too, but he's a little skinny. I wonder if there's some meat on there after stripping off his clothes. Shilian had been maintaining a polite and humble smile the entire time, but seeing that there were actually female ghosts coming closer, ready to feel his chest with their eyes bright, his brows twitched. Hua Cheng pressed 2 fingers together and lightly swung them upwards, and the circle of hands, delicate as well as withered both, were waved away. Shilian immediately crouched behind Hua Cheng to hide, and the female ghosts were annoyed. What, are you going to say that this puppet has bad temper too, and doesn't like other people touching him? He looks nice. Hua Cheng reached out and lifted Shilian's chin. His temper is certainly nice, but my temper is bad. No one shall touch what I love, except for me. Shilian followed along and obediently raised his face, holding back his laugh so hard his guts were spasming. Oh, he thinks it's a joke. He thinks it's a joke. Still, he was very cooperative and gazed into Hua Cheng's eyes, speaking earnestly. No, son, Master's temper is very nice, too. Hua Cheng laughed, looking very satisfied. The two went back and forth, getting quite into their roles, but another ghost on the side interrupted. I still think the scent of human on him is too strong. Then what do you want to do? The female ghost questioned. That ghost said, I heard puppets made of skin aren't stuffed with flesh, so if they're stabbed, they won't bleed. Let me stab him with a blade and see. But before he finished the thought, he was frightened into silence with a sharp eye. Hua Cheng said coldly, try touching him, I dare you. Do you think I would let things I treasure deeply in my heart be touched so easily by you lot? Oh my god! What? The crowd of ghosts had been pushed back by the power of his aura earlier, and now that Hua Cheng was making threats, they didn't dare move another muscle. They subconsciously backed away to give him some breathing room. That life-extinguishing blade, who had started everything, saw things were going downhill, and actually became the first to try to smooth things over. Oh, please don't be furious, Puppy Master. We haven't even entered the boundaries of Mount Tonglu yet. We can talk more after going in. Let's not start anything amongst ourselves now. Hua Cheng's eyes glanced to the side. Rather than harassing my puppet, why not ask instead why that one still won't remove their cloak? The eccentric cloaked figure had been standing there on the side this entire time and still hadn't removed their cloak since the ruckus started. They'd been watching with their arms crossed like they were enjoying a show, completely removed from the hubbub. Now that Hua Cheng had pointed them out, the show couldn't be watched anymore since they had become the star. The swift, life-extinguishing blade walked a step forward. Will this friend also remove their cloak to let us see? The cloaked figure paused for a long time. Just when Shilian was starting to suspect they were ready to kick up dirt and run away, the cloaked figure suddenly reached out and cleanly pulled off the cloak. Under the cloak was a handsome, but slightly plain, completely normal face. Such a person, if they were thrown into a crowd, they wouldn't look bad, but they'd easily be forgotten, their appearance unretainable. It made the ghosts who saw all this reveal rather disappointed, but Shilian was growing wary. It's obviously a fake face, Hua Cheng said. His voice could only be heard by Shilian, and Shilian nodded. Sometimes, when heavenly officials or renowned ghosts had business to do in the mortal realm, instead of using their inconvenient real forms, they'd create a fake face. In situations like these, the most important element of this transformation was plain and normal. No matter whether it was good-looking or not, as long as they had a plain enough face to ensure that no matter how long someone was to stare at their faces, they'd forget the moment they turned away. That would constitute a successful transformation. The face of the cloaked figure perfectly matched the key component of such a transformation. So it was more than likely this was not his real face, and his real identity was unknown. The swift, life-extinguishing blade handed out a yellow talisman. The cloaked figure took it and struck it to his forehead without hesitation. It crackled, smoke, a mark. It seemed that he was also a ghost and not a human. After the ruckus, the crowd was getting agitated. So is there actually a heavenly official mixed in or not? Who's the one that brought this up? You better not be wrong. The first to notice is me, but it's true. I definitely smelled a heavenly official. Ah! Unexpectedly, mid-speech, he suddenly screamed and toppled over. Shocked, Shilian rushed forward and found there was an extra bloody hole on his body. The hole pierced through the abdomen, and on the wound there was a faint residue. It was the kind of spiritual light only found on the bodies of heavenly officials. The crowd of ghosts was shocked. Look at his wound. There is a heavenly official among us. The swift, life-extinguishing blade covered up the bloody hole and cried, "Everyone watch out! They want to wipe us out!" The crowd of ghosts immediately lost their minds in terror, like a pot had exploded. They all raised their weapons, ready to face enemies from any direction, yelling, "Who is it? Who wants to wipe us out? Where are you hiding?" When that swift, life-extinguishing blade was first hit, the first thought that flashed through Shilian's mind was, I knew those who give themselves such ridiculous titles are the first to go down. After blinking, he shouted, "Everyone just saw now, right? My master and I were both under scrutiny the entire time. We didn't do anything." As he spoke, he glanced sharply at that cloaked figure. The other also raised his hand and suppressed a low voice. Same. Shilian leaned down to check over the swift, life-extinguishing blade's injuries and stated, "It's a sword wound. Whoever is using a sword right now is..." And when he turned his head, he was instantly speechless. It seemed the sword wasn't just the most popular weapon in the mortal and heavenly realm, but in the ghost realm as well. Of the 400 ghost presents, at least more than 300 wielded swords, completely uncountable. Shilian cleared his throat. If only there were more yellow talismans we could use, like the ones earlier, we wouldn't have to worry about who's who. Of course, this was an offhand comment trying to make himself sound helpful. If there really were heavenly colleagues who infiltrated the crowd, he certainly didn't want to help pick them out. The Swiftblade demon couldn't possibly have that many talismans at ready either. Yet unexpectedly, as he made this comment, he did pull out a thick stack of yellow talismans. "Oh, I do have more!" Shilian couldn't help but want to take a look behind his back. "Just where did you pull those out from?" "It's not important," the swift life-extinguishing blade said. "No, it's very important," Shilian said. "Normally, you don't take such heavy burdens with you on the road. They're heavy enough to be thrown like bricks to kill people. Just how many cultivators did you kill?" He glared at him, maybe 20-something. No wonder. If every cultivator carried with them 10 talismans, then by adding them all together, it'd be at least 200. Without further ado, the crowd of ghosts were anxious to find out who among them were heavenly officials, and quickly came up with a rough method. They formed into groups of 2, and each stuck a yellow talisman on their partner's forehead, observing whether the partner had ashen marks. Some small-time ghosts were still afraid. "Do I have to do this? Won't this break my spirit?" "Oh, it won't. It's exactly like those talismans they were using earlier. The powers were weak, so at most it'll just leave a mark." "Oh." Hua Cheng narrowed his eyes and seemed to have noticed something. Soon, in the crowd of 400-some ghosts, fields of them now had yellow talismans taped on their foreheads, looking peculiar and silly. However, after the talismans were stuck on, nothing happened. "What's going on?" The ghosts looked at each other. "Hey, Swiftblade Demon, what kind of cultivators did you kill? Why are the talismans so shitty they're not working?" Shilian had thought things were off from the start, and his brows were knitted. He was about to speak when a female ghost pursed her lips and whined, "I'm not doing this more. I'm ripping this off. Why can't I rip it off? Oh my god, it is! Right? It is! It is! It's Fuyao, right?" "Crap," just at the same time. Hua Cheng warned in a low voice, "Gege, crouch down!" Shilian immediately followed instructions, and Hua Cheng immediately covered his ears. Not far from the cloaked figure immediately pulled his cloak over his head and half knelt to the ground, and soon after, boom, 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 the sound of firecrackers exploded, and a loud rumble roared to the skies. Okay, it has to be like Fuyao, or it has to be, right? Because he had all the talismans. Chapter 145, The Gates Open at Mount Tonglu, The Assembly of Millions of Ghosts, Part 3. Shilian could only feel the waves of violent tremors rippling from all directions. A peculiar stench that was hard to describe permeated the air. The yellow talismans all exploded. As for the ghosts and demons who had them stuck to their foreheads, the solid ones had all had their brains blown out, blood and flesh splattering, and the hollow ones were blown out of shape, black smoke dispersing. Before the mountain bluffs, there was a field of howling and wailing. Shilian released the hands covering Shilian's ears, looking unaffected. Shilian rose to his feet, feeling slightly alarmed. He had inspected those yellow talismans one by one earlier, and they were all the most normal exorcism charms. How could they have such a shocking effect? Just then, amidst the smoking skies, came fluttering down a shredded paper. With a swift hand, Shilian seized to take a look and instantly figured it out. How cunning. This was a shredded corner of one of the yellow talismans. If it wasn't shredded, it might not have been noticeable, but there were actually 2 layers. One sheet of paper covered the top, and it was drawn with a more normal spell, but beneath there was another extremely thin sheet of charm paper. Although it had been burnt to the point where the spell was no longer recognizable, needless to say, it must have been a most vicious and aggressive spell. Clouds of dust flew and filled the air. Things couldn't be seen clearly, and there were still many of ghosts who were screaming like someone was taking this chance to ambush. Shilian laid low, and a ghost was shouting, "Wait! The slaughtering hasn't started! Why are you all making your moves now? Yeah, didn't we agree that since we're all ghosts, we'll peacefully find a way to cross the mountain to enter first?" A savage voice laughed. "Idiots like you deserve to be annihilated in the first round. There's never been any indication of when the slaughter begins, and since we're all opponents anyway, obviously the faster you're done in, the better. Think I'm gonna say hi before I make my move? No, wait, I'm backing out. We're not at Mount Tonglu. Can't I back out now?" The clouds of smoke and dust cleared slightly, and once the ghosts could see clearly, they were all mortified. How did this happen? Not just them, even Shilian was slightly stunned by the sight before him. When they first came, ahead on the road, there was a tall mountain bluff that couldn't be bypassed nor crossed, blocking the way. Yet looking at it now, the mountain had disappeared. It hadn't disappeared, it had migrated behind them. Without realizing it, they'd entered the boundaries of Mount Tonglu. Shilian suddenly understood why. When he first asked if Mount Tonglu had any landmarks, Hua Cheng said they were there, but not to trust them. Because those landmarks were like mischievous children playing pranks and would move around on their own. Oh, it's like Labyrinth. Okay. Dance, magic, dance. Suddenly, Shilian heard a voice behind him sneer. "I gotta see what this puppet is made of, or perhaps you're something else." The swift, life-extinguishing blade. Shilian ripped around, yet before Rui flew out, there was a chilling flash of light. The swift, life-extinguishing blade hadn't even had the chance to scream before it was slashed in 2 from the waist. Shilian rushed up to check, and sure enough, he was legitimately chopped cleanly in 2 halves and couldn't be more dead. He raised his head and saw the one who struck him was the eccentric cloaked figure. He was slowly sliding his sword into his sheath as he walked over in steady, confident steps. Shilian felt both the figure and the way he walked was somewhat familiar and straightened up. "My good sir, you are..." The man smirked and was about to answer when he suddenly bent down. Seeing this unexpected action, alarms went off in Shilian's head, and he watched him intently, preparing for any surprise attacks. Yet the man only leaned down and encircled his 2 arms around slender waists of 2 female ghosts. "Are my ladies all right?" "No! What?" The 2 female ghosts both bore charming looks and figures, and because they didn't wield swords, they didn't use any of the yellow talismans and were able to escape disaster. Nevertheless, the shockwave from the blast knocked them out. Now they were being embraced in someone's arms and being beckoned so passionately they languidly came to, feeling grateful. "Oh, I'm all right, thank..." But before that thank you fully left their lips, the 2 female ghosts' faces changed. They shoved the eccentric cloaked figure away. "Get out of here!" They hurriedly crawled away. The man wasn't annoyed after being slapped twice, and only appeared rather confused, rubbing his chins and brows knitted together. "That's not right. This face isn't that ugly." Although he was still in disguise, Shilian already knew who it was. "Oh my god, it's General Pei! Ah! Ah! Why are you here too?" The man turned to him and smiled. His hand brushed by his face and revealed his true appearance. It was Pei Ming. "Oh my god, Pei Ming! Just witnessed the ultimate flirting of Shilian and Hua Cheng. His fan club grows!" "Naturally, because it's the Emperor asked me to give your highness a hand." "Really?" Shilian said. "Oh, thank you. Sorry for the trouble. It's dangerous here, as you can see." "Gege, there's no need to be so grateful. He obviously negotiated full benefits with Jun Wu," Hua Cheng said. Pei Ming walked over and stopped in front of Hua Cheng. Then he crouched down and made a hand gesture to measure his current height, laughing. "Do my eyes deceive me? Ah! Is this my lord Crimson Rain Sought Flower?" One certainly changes for the better with time. So what did you eat to grow backwards? Ha! He only had once before Shelian's silk bandage was released, whipping so hard he was almost sent flying. He only barely dodged, leaping backwards. Your Highness, just how much do you treasure Hua Cheng? Can't even take a joke. Shelian demanded somberly, are you really General Pei? Pei Ming patted the sacred sword hung on his waist, flashing it for him to see. Genuine and authentic. Exchange if fake. Oh my god! No exchange if fake. Return directly, Shelian said. Gege, kill it. It's fake, Hua Cheng said. Hey! If you're really General Pei, then why did that yellow talisman leave an ashen mark on your forehead earlier? Shelian questioned. It's simple, Pei Ming said. It's all thanks to this. Then he tossed a small item to Shelian. Since he was on guard, Shelian didn't catch it with his hands. Instead, he used the tip of his sword and skewered it, bringing it up to his eyes. Candy. On the tip of the sword was a shiny little black candy. Pei Ming threw another in his mouth. It's ghost scent candy I bought from the ghost city. Just one chew and you'll get a mouthful of essence of evil flowing from inside out. Rather useful when pretending to be an inhuman creature. Shelian twiddled that ghost scent candy and was amazed. You can buy such magical things in the ghost city? Pei Ming munched one candy. Ask your Hua Cheng right next to you. He knows best. You can buy anything in the ghost city if you know how. The flavor's not bad, Your Highness. You want to try one? Shelian was curious how ghosts would taste and turned to Hua Cheng. If that's the case, we should have gotten some of the ghost scent candies before we came. However, Hua Cheng took the candy from his hand and said, Gege, if you want anything in the ghost city, you only need to ask me. But don't eat stuff like this. Why? Hua Cheng didn't exert any power, but the candy shrieked and dissolved into a wisp of black smoke. He explained everything in the ghost city is dangerous. Like this candy, it comes from a shady production house, and the ingredients are mostly vulgar, puny ghosts with unknown origins. Eating it will damage the body. Pei Ming didn't think anything of it. It's all right. It's only for emergencies. It's not like I've eaten it regularly. Hua Cheng continued, and the smell is pungent. Heavenly officials and mortals can't smell it, but the more vulgar the ghost, the more rancid the smell. Do you understand now why those two female ghosts told you to get lost? Ah! Because the essence of evil they smelled on Pei Ming was extremely vulgar and disgusting. Shelian cleared his throat softly and said courteously, General Pei, let's not eat this anymore. Pei Ming made a gesture and pulled out the leftover ghost candies and tossed them all out! Fine. But then we've only just reached the outer edges of Mount Tonglu. After further going in, there'll be even more powerful monsters and demons. They can tell with just one look that we're suspicious. What shall we do then? Those female ghosts swarmed around Hua Cheng like ducks. No doubt they really liked his scent. The essence of evil Hua Cheng transferred to him was undoubtedly the highest of quality, and so certainly there wasn't really a need to buy ghost-scented candies. Only, if he didn't want anyone to discover their essences were only stained on the surface, then they might need to press their lips together like last time and exchange bodily fluids and air. Shelian immediately stopped himself from thinking of this. He said matter-of-factly, I don't know either. I'm just a puppet. Meaning he was going to continue acting. Fine, then Your Highness best keep close to your master now. Shelian pretended not to hear and scanned their surroundings, humming, I hadn't imagined casualties would be this devastating from the get-go. He's just like, I'm not gonna hear you say those things. Oh my God, Pei Ming. Oh, I have never been so wrong in all my life about you. Ah! The 400-some ghosts that had gathered here originally were mostly dead or injured. Shelian couldn't help but recall that scene Hua Cheng enacted for him that night. And it truly wasn't an exaggeration. It really was as if a gust of wind had blown past and all the weeds had been ripped out. Those who had managed to escape this trial hadn't died out completely, were scraggly and few, their limbs all over the place, moaning and groaning. Hua Cheng stood in front of them. Do you all understand what kind of place Mount Tonglu is now? The surviving ghost didn't dare make a sound. Shelian said gently, You're all still only on the outer edges now. There's still a chance to pull out. If you don't want to continue and run into scarier things, then wait around here and find a chance to leave. The ghosts had that very intention, and seeing Shelian and company didn't plan on wiping them out, they hurriedly pulled each other up, supporting one another and fled as far as they could. Watching their backs retreat, Shelian spoke meaningfully. That swift, life-extinguishing blade might have an exaggerated name, but he was unexpectedly impressive. Vicious. Pei Ming agreed. That creature was extremely good at manipulation and was stirring the pot from the start. He was also quick on his feet. Your Highness, that strike of yours gave him the perfect chance to use his injuries for trickery. Shilian blinked. Wait, my strike? What strike? I didn't unsheath my sword. No? Pei Ming wondered. That small slash on his abdomen. If it wasn't for him creating panic and that little gash stained with your spiritual light, no ghost would have believed him and stuck those talismans on their forehead. Well, to be honest, I thought the strike came from you, General Pei. Your Highness, do you have some sort of misunderstanding of me? I don't do ambushes or sneak attacks, Pei Ming said. Well, if it wasn't you and it wasn't me, then was there a third heavenly official present? Or perhaps the spiritual light on the Swiftblade's demon wound is problematic. He turned around and was about to inspect and verify, but where was the swift, life-extinguishing blade's corpse? Where it was once laid empty. Startled, he demanded, "Where's the corpse of the Swiftblade demon?" Pei Ming was also somewhat taken aback. I clearly slashed him at the waist just now. Hua Cheng said darkly, Gege, be careful. In Mount Tonglu, the more opponents killed, the stronger the slayer. And earlier, within an instant, the swift, light-extinguishing blade had slaughtered close to 400 monsters and demons. Oh my gosh! Ah! Oh, y'all. Oh, y'all. Oh my god. I was fangirling so much in this chapter set, and I'm wrong on many accounts. Maybe. Yes. I was like so convinced, like halfway through this chapter set, I'm like, oh, the life extinguishing demon blade is Mu Qing in Fu Yao because they had all the different talismans. I'm like, oh, it's him, right? And we don't really know what the hell it is. We just know that it's possibly a demon that just killed, 400 other demons and got really, really strong and is possibly making their way to Mount Tonglu. There's that. We don't know anything else about it, but clearly the proof, the point of that demon, if we never see it again, the point of that demon is to show Shilian that you cannot judge things by titles alone at this point. Because a demon that Shilian wrote off as being just something easy to take care of, oh, well, he's likely going to be the first one to get killed and isn't a big deal, is a really big deal, just killed like 400 ghosts and got really strong and could possibly survive Pei Ming's assault and is now heading on its way to Mount Tonglu. So yeah, problematic. But also Pei Ming is here! Here's the thing, y'all. I was wrong. I will concede defeat and admit I was wrong. That when we first met Pei Ming, I was like, I'm not going to like this character. I'm going to despise him. He's so gross. Why is he being like this to Banyu? No. I was being very chi-wrong towards Pei Ming. And in this set of chapters, the moment we find out it's Pei Ming, and he has been standing there watching Shilian and Hua Cheng flirt this entire time, and it's just like, why don't you just go and follow your master then? I was like, oh my god! So yeah, I am fully accepting that Pei Ming is going to be our Longitian in this story. He is going to be the one that is going to push the Hulian agenda for us, and I am here for it. So I was so wrong about Pei Ming. We don't even have Pei Ming backstory. Here's the thing, Pei Ming. Pei Ming, you're a brave soul for following Shilian on Mount Tonglu, because as you will note throughout this entire story, everybody that's come across Pei Ming up until this point, everybody that's come across Shilian up until this point has met a very bad end. So you're a bold sir, Pei Ming. You are quite a bold sir for suggesting that following Shilian is going to be a good thing. So, oh my god, these chapters. There is a lot going on. But I'm like, Pei Ming, everybody else has been hanging out with Shilian. Has had some bad luck happen. Are we about to get backstory on you? Be great if we did. So I'm, looking forward. But we have lots of things going on with this chapter set that we need to talk about. So I'm really glad that we backtracked and got to figure out what the whole deal was with Junwoo, because when we started out this chapter set and like instantly was going to the next day, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Are we not going to find out what happened? Are you going to give us that cliffhanger and then just ignore it? But luckily, we do find out what the deal was and what the whole thing with Junwoo was, which is very good, because I was a little bit worried about that going into this chapter set. I was like, are we just going to skip and bypass over that? We don't, which is a good thing. So the thing about it is that I just like that we start out the chapter set with Hua Cheng holding Shilian's hand. That is one thing that I'm kind of sad about, because Hua Cheng has made the point being like, now that we're getting close to Mount Tonglu, at some point we're going to be encountering tougher and tougher demons, and I will likely have to step up and become my normal self again to protect you, and so I'll be aging up again at some point, which it's like, I didn't think I would be regretting that, but it's like seeing Shilian be so comfortable around Hua Cheng, because there's not that not threat, I don't want to say that word, but there's not that implication of intimacy that Shilian can just hold Hua Cheng's hand and it's not seen as anything other than just holding hands. I definitely get that vibe from Shilian. There's almost like I wouldn't say asexual vibe with Shilian, I wouldn't say that, but almost like a demisexual vibe where he really wants to get to know. He likes Hua Cheng. He does. Shilian does. But he doesn't think that Hua Cheng likes him back. And I'm like, the fact that he thought it was a joke when Hua Cheng was like, nobody touches anything that I love. I was like, Shilian, he's not joking. He's being serious. Can't you get that? And I'm like, ugh. But I really love these little moments where Shilian is just holding Hua Cheng's hand, and it's just the cutest little thing. And there's just like nothing to it other than they just care about each other. And I'm going to miss that. I am going to miss that. I'm like, you guys can do that when he's fully grown. Shilian, you can hold Hua Cheng's hand when he's an adult. It's all right. But Shilian doesn't think that that's acceptable. Like when you hold the hand of a kid because it's, social practice. Shilian doesn't realize that you can do that with Hua Cheng as an adult. And it's okay. Right? Now, Hua Cheng gives Shilian the warning to stay away from Junwoo. And Shilian's like, what are you talking about? He's like, whenever Junwoo comes around you, bad things happen. Which is hilarious coming from Hua Cheng, right? But Hua Cheng says, he's like, no matter what the case was, he says, either way, this was not a good thing. He's like, it's choosing between a sword and a knife to commit suicide. Because he's like, Junwoo gave you two options. Either take control of the upper court, which... who would want to do that? Or go to Mount Tonglu, which who would want to do that? So Hua Cheng's like, he gave you two really bad options. He was just going to basically, and Hua Cheng does make a good point. He's like, Junwoo was just going to hand you all of the heavenly realm and all of its problems and be like, well, you can handle this. And Hua Cheng's like, nobody needs to give you that, right? He's like, I just love that they sound like a couple, right? Walking towards Mount Tonglu. Hua Cheng sounds like a boyfriend where he's like, don't let them talk to you like that. Like, how dare he? Like, what was he even thinking? Like, they just sound like an old married couple walking up the hill together. He's like, what's up with that? It was really cute. And Shilian's like, I didn't think you would volunteer to accompany me to Mount Tonglu. I've been thinking and feel that you should know you don't have to force yourself. And I'm like, Shilian, by this point you should realize that Hua Cheng, it's not bothering him to come with him. Shilian still thinks that Hua Cheng is just doing this out of obligation. And I'm like, you should know by the end of this set of chapters, Shilian, Hua Cheng loves you, and he's doing this because he loves you and wants to be with you. Pei Ming gets it. Pei Ming can see the writing on the wall. He's just like, you guys are oblivious. Pei Ming's like, come on, how did you not get it, right? What the heck? But Shilian just still doesn't understand it, right? And Hua Cheng is like, I've told you 3 times already, I'm not forcing myself. Don't you believe me? He's like, just relax. I know my limits. He's like, I don't mind. And he says, even for my own position, I wouldn't mind stuffing the new Ghost King back in before it's born either. So we established this idea that there is mutual benefit for both the Ghost Realm and the Heavenly Realm to not have a new Ghost King. That we don't need a new Ghost King. And so I want to put up here. So the idea is that Hua Cheng, the agreement is that Hua Cheng and Shilian are going to go to Mount Tonglu together, because Hua Cheng's like, well, it will make much more sense if I help out Shilian, because I can detect the strong ghosts. Neither you or Shilian are as skilled at it, so I can help out more than either of you on your own. And obviously, Hua Cheng is not going to help out Junwoo. So I feel like Hua Cheng makes an ultimatum to Junwoo, and it's like, either you go by yourself and leave Shilian, this brand new guy, in charge of the Heavenly Realm and hope that it works out, or I go with Shilian and you take care of business. Which is it going to be? And of course, there are other demands, which we'll write up here in a second. But I mean, from Junwoo's standpoint, that suggestion why wouldn't you consider it seriously? Because Hua Cheng, the Crimson Rain Sought Flower, is one of the supreme ghosts anyway. So the fact that he's with Shi Lian on Mount Tonglu means that Hua Cheng is distracted. He's not causing any trouble for the mortal realm or the heavenly realm because he's with Shi Lian at Mount Tonglu. So from Junwoo's perspective, not only does it, one, enhance their chances of success, Junwoo by now, if Pei Ming has noticed, Junwoo surely has noticed that Hua Cheng has an affinity for Shi Lian, so Hua Cheng is not going to let Shi Lian just suffer. So there's that. And then 3, it allows him to keep Hua Cheng out of his hair, and any possible shenanigans he could cause are kind of null and void while this is going on. It's just really fascinating that at the beginning of this series, Junwoo was like, whatever you do, stay away from Hua Cheng. Don't touch Ming. Don't get near him. And now he's totally open to Junwoo. Junwoo's totally open to Hua Cheng going with Shi Lian to Mount Tonglu together. It's interesting, right? Which I guess you could equate it to, things are so dire right now that Junwoo doesn't really have a choice. He's like, maybe Junwoo doesn't want Shi Lian to be around Hua Cheng, but he really doesn't have any options at this point. He's kind of out of options, and this is the only way at the moment that things are gonna, possibly get any better. So Hua Cheng said he wouldn't be going for nothing, and his demands are ridiculous, except for one. I like that Hua Cheng has a demand. He demands, these are his terms, right? He has terms for this all happening. One turn is that the heavenly realm will avoid the ghost city. It's like, if I help you, then you have to detour around it. You cannot be around the ghost city anymore. Which, in my mind, is setting up for a possible epilogue where if the heavenly realm and if Junwoo's still around, who knows what's going to happen in the story, right? My theory is that by the end of the story, him having all of heaven detour around the ghost city means that the ghost city will be the sanctuary for Shi Lian and Hua Cheng. Meaning that when all is said and done, Hua Cheng and Shi Lian can settle down in the ghost city with all the ghosts, and the heavenly realm will leave them alone, because that was part of the stipulation. I think there's that, but also, the ghost city is a place for ghosts to be at a haven, and the heavenly officials do some shady business there. So Hua Cheng is like, no more of that. Not gonna have you guys around. Like with Pei Ming, the candies, we'll talk about it, but he's like, no more of that. Not gonna have that happening. And then he said that the entire court must announce the heroic deeds of the Crimson Rain Sought Flower and sing praises for an entire year. So for 1 year, they have to praise him in song, which is ridiculous. I feel like that's just Hua Cheng sticking it to them, being like, look, the legit term is that you're going to avoid the ghost city. The ridiculous term is that for a year you have to sing my praises. So I get that's kind of like the trickster in him, but underneath it there is a layer of seriousness there. And not bad terms, right? And Hua Cheng's like, with me around, this journey is going to be easier for you. And he's like, well, but what if you get aggravated? He's like, I wish we would have waited to return to your normal self. And he's like, don't worry, it'll be soon. And Hua Cheng can't wait to become an adult again. He's like, I hate this child form. I hate what it represents. I don't like it. But Shi Lian kind of loves what it represents because it takes that edge off and allows them to be together without that kind of implication that there's some kind of intimacy there. And when he just lifts him up and hugs him and raises him high, he's like, ew, I won't be able to lift you up like this anymore when you've all grown up, so I have to hug you now while I can. It's so sweet, but I'm like, oh, Shi Lian, come on now. You can hug Hua Cheng like that when he's an adult. It just will be harder because he'll be 7 foot tall and like about 100 pounds heavier. So, interestingly enough, we find out some things about Mount Tonglu, which is kind of cool. We find out, I'm going to put Mount Tonglu up here. We find out here that you cannot use the distance shortening array. You have to travel on foot. You can't just teleport in there. So that is a stipulation of Mount Tonglu. You can't do that. It takes them 10 days to walk through there before they actually get into the woods where it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And the thing of it is they start to find these ghosts that are clumped in groups, right? And they're doing this weird chant. saying the world be a kiln, the souls be copper, like it all being a melting pot. Waters deep and fires burn, adversaries, adversities buried within. Which to me sounds like Hua Cheng and the Blackwater. That Hua Cheng is represented by fire, because obviously the Blackwater is represented by deep waters. So fires burn. You have Hua Cheng with this fire in his heart, this love blazing for Shi Lian. That part makes sense, right? And adversities buried within shows that they came, from Mount Tonglu, from the adversities they faced within the kiln. Those two know it. And Hua Cheng, you totally understand that Hua Cheng is like, this is not a cakewalk. Hua Cheng's like, I had to kill a lot of ghosts to get to the kiln. And it's not something you just do. Like, he seems offended that they think it's so easy. Right? And he's like, And we find right off the bat, like, we have 400 ghosts die before we even barely get through the gates of Mount Tonglu. So this is not going to be a walk in the park, right? No, sir. No, sir. And Hua Cheng points out that they travel in groups because they say they're all going to work together and show mercy. He's like, but those promises aren't going to be kept. You fight till the end. The more you kill, the stronger you get. The more you save, the less chance you have to survive. The easiest target is often the one closest to you. Which the first thing I thought of when he said that was Heshan and the Windmaster. The closer the target, the easier it is, right? The easiest target is the one closest to you. Keep your friends close, your enemies closer. And then he covers his right eye and seems to have another headache coming on. And I love that Shi Lian is instantly like beside him, like crouching beside him and just holding him, saying everything's going to be all right. It's like, Now, his right eye being covered, that's the eye that's no longer there, right? So, interesting. So, yeah, it's the idea that groups will disband, and the more you kill, the stronger you get. Which, again, makes me really questionable about Bai Wusheng, because they make the chant that the ghosts say is talking about the Blackwater and Hua Cheng, which are the two that have come out of Mount Tonglu. How did Bai Wusheng come to be if he didn't come from Mount Tonglu? How did he get to be a supreme? That's quite terrifying. And again, my hunger for more on Bai Wusheng grows as we go through this, right? But they managed to, Hua Cheng gets Shi Lian come closer and cups his head in his hand and puts his forehead against his own and says that he's like, I've marked you, I stained you with his scent. So the idea is that the ghosts can sense heavenly officials. So Hua Cheng, quote unquote, marks Shi Lian. Like I said in the reaction, the whole scenting thing, that is a very Omegaverse thing. So MXTX is getting away with a lot of little pseudo Omegaverse practices in the story, that being one of them. It's just very interesting. And I'm sure Shi Lian is okay with them rubbing foreheads together rather than the other option, which is exchanging body fluids. Not that Pei Ming would probably watch, right? That's this crazy thing. Pei Ming would probably be like, I'll just sit here and watch. It's fine. I mean, I don't want to do it with a guy, but I don't mind watching you two. That's how I figure Pei Ming would be, right? Oh my God. And so they put on a disguise. I like that their disguise is literally just a cloak. Because everybody else is kind of just dressing in cloaks with masks too, so it makes them fit in. They don't need anything elaborate, right? And Hua Cheng says that there is an entrance to Mount Tonglu, and that the landmarks are tricking. They're tricksters. You can't trust them. I instantly, the moment we had the opening where the openings move, the opening of Mount Tonglu moves around, I thought of Labyrinth, the 1980s Jim Henson movie where as Sarah is going through the labyrinth, the little creatures come up and they turn, she takes a little lipstick tube and she marks her path so she doesn't get lost. And then when she walks away, the little rock that she's marked lifts up and changes, and they're changing the markers and everything. I get total Labyrinth vibes from Mount Tonglu, that every entrance, every pathway starts to change and alter so that you get lost. It's like a maze. And it's not going to be easy to get to the center of the mountain. That's the thing. It's not going to be easy. But what do? And we just barely in this chapter set just barely got into the mountain, like barely entered, and there's already hundreds and hundreds of ghosts dead. So I did like the humor where Shelian's like, well, can't we run around the mountain? They're like, no. Can't we climb over it? No. Can't we fly over it? No. Like, they're like, stop asking, loudmouth. There's like, there's no way over the mountain unless the mountain lets us go over, right? It's like a screen. And so then they all smell a heavenly official. Now, the big question is, that we do have questions that have come out of this. Like, we know that Pei Ming was there the whole time watching all this take place. And we know that Shi Lian is there as a heavenly official with Hua Cheng in tow. The question is, was there a third heavenly official? Because there's the question about the life extinguishing blade that is supposedly the ghost, right? Now, is it actually a ghost or demon that's really powerful? Is it Fu? I thought for a second that it would be Fu Yao, because I was like, oh, he has all these talismans. It's Fu Yao. And then everybody would be like, well, why is he a ghost? I'm like, well, Pei Ming has the candy, so could Mu Qing / Fu Yao. We don't know. But then why was it trying to out Shi Lian? So I'm thinking, I was really convinced for the first part that it was Fu Yao, and that was like a little hint MXTX was giving us with the talismans. But thinking back, I'm like, well, that doesn't quite make sense. So I think it is a ghost, possibly. But did it attack itself to try and reveal Pei Ming? Because I feel like the ghost, the life extinguishing blade, was really manipulative, super manipulative, and super smart, and maybe sensed that there were multiple heavenly officials there, so it was trying to out one or the other, and maybe it sensed that Pei Ming and Shi Lian did not come together, so it was trying to get one to reveal itself before the other. And so my theory is that when that sword wound with the heavenly official aura on it was inflicted, that it was self-inflicted. But if it was self-inflicted, that means that they're a heavenly official. So what? So that's the thing. Like, that's the thing. Like, was the life extinguishing blade actually a ghost, or was it a heavenly official in disguise? We don't know. We know that if it was a ghost, it just killed 400 others and got really, really strong. It's like a Saiyan off Dragon Ball Z. It just keeps getting stronger, right? It keeps just making itself stronger as it goes. So, we don't know. We don't know. And so, all these ghosts that are here, the demon of the swift life extinguishing blade, what a long mouthful of a name. The decapitation blade of an executioner. There's only ever the blade for killing and chopping off heads. I don't know. I feel like this is not the last that we've saw of said ghost. Obviously, I don't feel like it's the last we've saw of them. I would be concerned if that ghost was going to Mount Tonglu and gotten the kiln, because it seems manipulative, it seems strong, and it seems like it has a very questionable character. So I'd be a little bit worried about that. But so then we have Shi Lian saying that he's a puppet master. I don't know. I feel like Shi Lian saying that he is the puppet master and Hua Cheng saying the same is rather interesting. I don't know. For Shi Lian to be the puppet master, it seems an interesting move. And you get why Shi Lian says it, because he says puppet masters are really weak ghosts, but they have the potential to kind of mask themselves as humans or heavenly officials. So it's an ideal disguise. And everybody just kind of is like, well, where's your puppet? And then Shi Lian's like, lifts Hua Cheng up like a ventriloquist, like, oh, look, here's my puppet. Isn't that cute? And of course, all the girls are like, oh my God, what a handsome puppet. And they're like, can we order the same? You won't let him touch us. And Shi Lian, I like that Shi Lian, before they can touch Hua Cheng, he brings him close to him like, oh, no, he's mine. He's my puppet. He's like, don't touch him, otherwise he'll get very angry. This is my puppet. Shi Lian and Hua Cheng, the flirting between them, right? And I'm sure that Hua Cheng knows exactly that this is flirting, but Shi Lian doesn't realize it's flirting. And I'm like, dude, how can you not? And we get this beautiful idea that we get this beautiful idea that the two of them together could be quite the pair, right? I love that. I love that when Shilian gets all up into the flirting and kind of forgets himself and is just acting kind of mischievous alongside Hua Cheng. Like, they make quite a dynamic duo, right? Like, their attitudes, oh my God. And the scent of human on you is too heavy. But here's the thing. They try to use the yellow talisman on Shilian, and that's when Hua Cheng reveals that he's the puppet master instead of Shilian. But when he says to him, he's like, well, what kind of person is he? Looking at Shilian, and Shilian goes, obviously the kind that belongs to him. Hua Cheng could not have asked for a better response. Like, Hua Cheng is eating this up. He is living right now. He's like, oh my God, Shilian said that he belongs to me. Oh my God. Like, like Hua Cheng is just like having just the time of his life, like very pleased with himself, right? And then they all try to touch Shilian. And Shilian's like, well, I'm actually really old. You really don't need to do that. He's like, just drink water and bathe frequently, and that'll keep you lively and spry like I am. And they try to like strip him of his robes to see what he looks like. And Hua Cheng like gets annoyed with him, and they're like, well, what are you doing? And are you gonna say he has a bad temper too? He doesn't like other people touching him. He looks nice. And that moment where Hua Cheng like lifts Shilian's chin and says, Shilian's temper is nice, but mine is bad. No one shall touch what I love except for me. And y'all, the image in the book that they give us for this chapter set is I think out of all the images this artist has done for this series so far, this is the best one. This is the best one. The image of Hua Cheng holding Shilian with the chin saying that no one can touch anything that I love. It belongs to me. I'm like, just the sensual look on baby Hua Cheng's face, and Shilian just being like, like just, I could stare. I feel like Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec, where he's like, I've stared at this for 4 hours. Like, I just stare at that picture forever because it's so beautiful. The expressions, I eat this up. It's my favorite picture in the whole series so far. It's just so damn good. And Shilian is following along and saying he's holding back his laughter from it and just cooperating. He's like, oh no, Master's temper is very nice too. And Hua Cheng laughs and looks satisfied. And I'm like, you guys think you're playing a game, but you are flirting. You are straight up flirting. I love your dynamic together. I love when they're both mischievous together. And I'm like, Shilian, come on and realize, smell the roses. Like, you clearly like him. And I just love that the Pei Ming, the eccentric cloaked figure who's been standing back the entire time, has just been crossing his arms like he's watching a show, being like, wow, these two together. I love that Pei Ming is just absolutely eating all of this up. And Pei Ming is like, oh, these two are together and I'm going to expose it. Like, And I love that Hua Cheng says, try touching him, I dare you. Do you think I would let the things I treasure deeply in my heart be so easily touched by you lot? And I'm like, Shilian just doesn't even realize that Hua Cheng is being dead serious. When he said he was the most sincere person, he is being the most sincere. I'm like, Shilian, come on. You gotta realize, right? You gotta realize. But that's when Pei Ming is asked to reveal himself, and he has the fake face. So they established that usually heavenly officials, when they go to infiltrate the human realm or the ghost realm, they put on a fake face that will be easily forgettable. Like, they don't want to be conspicuous. So they do this fake face so no one will notice them. They will be inconspicuous, and it's just the most plain face possible. And because he ate the candies, that's why he smelled like a ghost. Makes sense. Has the essence of evil on him. And so then, yeah, the thing about it is that in the ruckus, the crowd was getting aggravated. And so Pei Ming pointed out that he was not a heavenly official, that he was a ghost in disguise. And so they're like, well, was there a heavenly official mixed in or not? Who's the one that brought this up? And the life extinguishing blade is like, oh yes, I was the one to bring it up, but I thought I'd smelled a heavenly official. And that's when he screamed and toppled over and found there was this bloody hole on his body. and there was a faint residue, the kind of spiritual light only found in the body of heavenly officials. So the thing of it is at that moment, my theory is, I thought this was Fu Yao, but I don't think it is obviously at all. I think it's just a ghost. My theory is that at that point when the ghost realized that the two heavenly officials had very successful ways of disguising themselves, or had detected that the two that had been pinpointed were not the heavenly officials, they decided to just cause a scene, make some chaos, and then kill the other ghosts so that he could advance further. So, and possibly be stronger than the heavenly officials that are after him, right? So, my theory is that he made the wound on himself. The only question that doesn't make sense is, it makes sense for the life extinguishing blade to attack himself to create a distraction so that he could wipe all the other ghosts out. But the question that I have is, how did he have the faint residential spiritual energy on him? How did he have that on his person without there being a heavenly official involved? Because Pei Ming didn't attack him, and neither did Shi Lian. So something's amiss about him. Something is amiss. We don't know. Unless it was like spiritual energy from the talisman that he had saved over. We just don't know, right? And so then the heavenly, like all the ghosts start freaking out. And that's when they start, and the swift blade, you know, says that he has more yellow talismans. So again, the swift life extinguishing blade was just using it to get Shi Lian close so that he could distribute all the talismans and blow up the ghosts. Like, it was just a distraction to make it to where, okay, well, now there's a panic caused, so here's these talismans, we'll see who is actually the heavenly official and go from there. So it's very clever. Like, there was a very elaborate scheme here that develops in a short amount of time, and Shi Lian doesn't even catch on at first, like, what the hell's happening? And Shi Lian's like, where did you pull out those? And this life extinguishing blade says it's not important, but Shi Lian's like, well, it's really important. How many cultivators did you kill? Maybe 20 something. So, yeah, the fact that if this ghost killed 20 or something cultivators, like, that is a problem, right? And so Hua Cheng notices, only too late, that the talismans get stuck to their head, and then a giant explosion is caused. And at first, when Pei Ming like shields himself, I thought Pei Ming and the life extinguishing blade were working together. I thought they were a pair trying to out Shi Lian and Hua Cheng and get them targeted by the other ghosts. That's what I thought, but it seems like that's not the case, that Pei Ming didn't even realize that the life extinguishing blade was as much of a threat as he was. So, what the hell, right? And Shi Lian could only feel waves of violent tremors ripping from all directions. The talismans had exploded. And so everybody is freaking out, being like, I thought we just got here. And Shi Lian realizes that the swift life extinguishing blade had been the one to cause it, right? The explosion. But then Pei Ming cuts it in two from the waist, but apparently that wasn't enough to kill it. It got away, so couldn't be more dead. But yet he still gets away in the end. What the heck? And I love that Pei Ming, the moment I knew it was Pei Ming was the moment he was like, my ladies, are you all right? I was like, Pei Ming's such a hoe. He's such a man hoe. He's just like, he's such a hoe. He was just like, hey girls, like, hey, what's up? Like, he could not pass up the opportunity to flirt with a bunch of ghost girls on Mount Tonglu. He's like, I may be here for a long time helping out these two guys, but I can have a good time with you ladies if you're up for it. And I love that the two ghost ladies were like at first like, oh, thank you. And then they like realized he smelled and left and they're like, get out of here. And he's like, this face isn't that ugly. He's such a diva. He's so full of himself. Oh my God. I just love that Pei Ming was fully ready to like get it on with some ghost ladies after all this was over with. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? What? Pei Ming, what is this? What is this? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And that's when Shi Lian's like, oh, General Pei, you're here too. And he's like, it's because the Emperor asked me to give you a hand. And Hua Cheng's like, he clearly negotiated some benefits from Junwu. He's clearly getting something out of this. Let's be real. And then I cannot explain to you in words how much I love the scene of Pei Ming walking up to Hua Cheng and saying, "Oh, do my eyes deceive me? Oh, like, look at you," like measuring it with his hand, like, "How'd you get so small?" And Hua Cheng's like, and Shilian like gets Pei Ming away from him before he gets injured, right? Before he hurts himself, right? Oh my God, y'all. Oh my God. And then, yeah, Pei Ming saying, "How much do you treasure your Hua Shangju? Can't you even take a joke?" He's like, "I see how it is. Don't mind me. I'm just, calling you out on your flirting and everything." And I love that he's like, they're like, "Are you really General Pei or are you a fake?" And he's like, "Genuine and authentic. Exchange if fake." What the fudge? That, like, what just... He's so cheesy and ridiculous. But he's in such a great mood because I feel like Pei Ming's in a great mood because, one, he gets to, like, attack ghosts. He's a martial god, so of course he's happy to be in battle. But two, he gets to now follow around Shilian and Hua Cheng, who don't want him around, to possibly expose the two of them. So it's just great, right? Pei Ming's having the time of his life. But I'll admit I was totally wrong. I did not think that I would ever get to the point where I would celebrate Pei Ming entering a chapter. But he was like, he stole the show. Like, with these, after the puppet business, he stole the show with these chapters. And I was like, what else could I have expected? What else could I have expected, right? And so he talks about the candy, right? I want to bring up the candy. He talks about the ghost candy that he got from the ghost city, which implies that he's been stalking around the ghost city, possibly getting it on with ghost ladies, because Pei Ming, he a hoe and he don't care as long as he can go get some done. So I feel like he went to the ghost city, like, had a good old time, got his little ghost candies, and then left. And I like that Shilian's like, "Well, Hua Cheng, why didn't we get some of that? That seems like it'd be really helpful." And Hua Cheng's just sitting there like, "Oh, sweet summer child." I like that Hua Cheng instantly is like, "Yeah, you can get the ghost candy, but I wouldn't advise it." He's like, "It's sketchy and it's janky and it's gonna weaken you." And Pei Ming's like, "Well," he's like, "It's not gonna weaken me that much. I'm not addicted to it or anything." And Hua Cheng's like, "Yeah, you say that, but it also produces a rancid smell that ghosts can detect that will make them stay away from you." And I love that as soon as General Pei's like, "Well, let's get rid of this." Because this is the thing that is so hilarious about this moment, is that Shilian's like, "Maybe we shouldn't eat the candy because it's harmful to us, possibly, and it's making us smell really bad. So if we need to talk to a ghost, we won't be able to, so maybe let's not eat it." I like that General Pei's reason for not eating the candy is not because Hua Cheng said not to. It's not because it could be potentially harmful for your body. It's not because Shilian advised them not to do it. It's because it could lower his chances at getting laid. Like, that's literally the only reason he decides not to eat it. It's because he's like, "Oh, you mean I might not get some ghost girl while I'm here in 10 years in Mount Tonglu, possibly? Oh, then let's ditch this." I love that that's the reason. Like, they could potentially, from what we've heard from previous experiences with Heshan and Hua Cheng, they could be in Mount Tonglu's territory for quite some time. And Pei Ming's like, the only reason he wants to get rid of the candy is because it may diminish his chances of getting laid while he's there. I'm like, why are we not surprised? Why are we not surprised? But he's like, "Fine, but we've only just reached the outer edges of Mount Tonglu. Once we go further in, there'll be even more powerful ghosts and demons that can tell with just a look that we're suspicious. So what should we do then?" So this brings up a really good point. Hua Cheng, Shilian notices that this is going to be a problem later because Hua Cheng admits this, like, very pleasant ghostly aura because he's a supreme already and he's the ghost king. So naturally all these female ghosts swarm to him like ducks because they really like the scent. So they're going to be attracted to them, but because of that, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Whereas Pei Ming and Shilian are going to have to hide themselves during those times. But if they don't smell like a ghost, then it's going to be a problem. And they can't use the ghost-scented candies because no one wants, that essence to be inside of them. And Shilian realizes that the only real other way he knows to get the essence inside him rather than just dyed over the surface is by making out with Hua Cheng. And Shilian's like, "I don't want to think about making out with Hua Cheng right now, right? Because that's going to bring up his whole existential crisis." So he's like, "Well, I don't know either. I'm just a puppet." So Shilian decides he's just going to keep on acting, fake it till he makes it, and just go with the flow, and then we'll just figure it out as we go and just do that. He's like, I don't want to think about making out with Hua Cheng right now. I'm enjoying little Hua Cheng that I don't have to feel sexually insecure around. We'll just figure that out later. And Pei Ming saying, well, fine then, Your Highness. Best to keep close to your master now. He sounded like the girl dog from Oliver and Company that tells the two Dobermans, he's like, go on, boys, your master's calling. Like, that's what he sounds like from Oliver and Company. He sounds like the girl dog. I forget her name. Is it Georgette? No, that's the poodle. It sounds like the girl dog that's like with the mutts. She's like, go on, boys, your master's calling you. Like, just that's what it sounds like. And Shilian's like, I'm not listening. I love that Shilian tries to instantly change the subject where he's like, yeah, because Pei Ming's like, well, aren't you going to keep close to your master? And Shilian's like, I hadn't imagined the casualties had been this bad. Just change the subject. Don't worry about it. And so I thought this part was really nice that Shilian, like, tells the ghosts that are still alive after that slaughter. He's like, hey, you guys, it's only going to get worse from here on in. If you can go. We're not going to stop you. Just go back to where you came from and get away from here. And they waste no time. They're like, okay, bye. And like, leave immediately, right? Leave immediately. And so they're like, the swift life extinguishing blade might have been an exaggerated name, but he was unexpectedly impressive and vicious. He was good at manipulation and stirring the pot from the start and was quick on his feet. That strike of yours gave the perfect chance for him to use his injuries for trickery. And that's the thing. I don't think that once we find out it wasn't Shilian or Pei Ming that did the strike, I think it was the ghost that did the strike and was able to use it for his own advantages, right? The only question is, where did the heavenly official's presence come from on the strike? So was there a third one there or not? Was there a third heavenly official running around or not? We don't know that. And the chapter set does not give us any answers. So, and Hua Cheng doesn't speak up either. It's literally just Shilian and Pei Ming having a discussion about this. The small slash on his abdomen. If it wasn't for him creating a panic, the little gash stained with your spiritual light, no ghost would have believed him and would have stuck their talismans to the forehead. And he's like, I thought the strike came from you. So yeah, we don't know what the deal is. And that's when they're like, the spiritual light on the spirit swift blade demon's wound is problematic. Yeah. Maybe they're like, if there wasn't a third heavenly official, then where'd he get the light from and what does that mean? And then they turn around to inspect the corpse and find out there's no body there. They're like, where was the corpse of the swift blade demon? And Pei Ming's like, I slashed him at the waist just now. He should be dead. And that's when Hua Cheng is like, in Mount Tonglu, the more opponents you kill, the stronger the slayer becomes. And just then, he slaughtered close to 400 monsters and demons. So that's the thing. By the time he slaughtered all those ghosts in that one time, it strengthened him enough to withstand Pei Ming's attack and get away. So Hua Cheng is suggesting, he's like, look, things are only going to get worse from here on in. That ghost just became a lot more powerful, and we probably need to track him down, or we need to watch out for him as we get closer to Mount Tonglu, because he's going to be likely one of the ones that is going to want to go in the kiln. So Hua Cheng is suggesting, like, yeah, we just entered the danger zone, and things are going to get a lot scarier from here on in. So yeah, so we're in Mount Tonglu now. So much happened this chapter set. I'm actually glad that Pei Ming is there. I feel like Pei Ming can be a good buffer between Shilian and Hua Cheng, especially if Shilian gets uncomfortable. And you know what? Pei Ming is a ladies' man. He is a man of romance, a man of passion. If anybody is to give Shilian expert advice on how to deal with relationships and passion, maybe Pei Ming's not the worst person to have around. Maybe Shilian could be like, oh, I don't know, Pei Ming, I don't want Hua Cheng to get the wrong idea. And Pei Ming can be like, dude, Hua Cheng likes you. It's very obvious. Maybe Pei Ming seems like, here's the thing, because Pei Ming says he doesn't do sneak attacks. He doesn't do ambushes. He's not manipulative. That has been one thing that's been established about Pei Ming this entire series, is that he doesn't lie and isn't manipulative. So he's a very honest individual to a fault. sometimes to a very big fault, right? So I feel like it may be good that he's around for Shilian to get advice from. That might end up being something that's helpful, right? Possibly. And plus, Pei Ming being there could help be somebody to like give these two goons that are clearly in love with one another, and Shilian just isn't fully in the recognition that's mutual, kind of a push towards that relationship, right? I'm hoping Pei Ming is going to push them off into Ship Town. I'm really hoping for it. I can't believe I'm excited to see him here in the story, but I very much am. So yeah, I very much am. And now we're at Mount Tonglu. We just got started. I don't imagine we're getting to the center of Mount Tonglu before the end of this volume. They talked about taking sometimes 10 years before you get to the kiln. So I can't imagine that we're going to round out Mount Tonglu in the rest of this novel. I feel like the rest of this novel is going to be about Mount Tonglu and getting closer to the center, right? Because we've established you can't fly there, you can't run there, you can't take any shortcuts. You've got to take the long route. So yeah. But if Shilian and Hua Cheng are stuck with Pei Ming for a while, I'm fine with that. Who else could be involved in this journey? We know that Fu Yao is on his way to Mount Tonglu, chasing after possibly the fetus spirit and Zhan Lan. We know that's a thing. We know that the Brocade Immortal and Ling Wen's out there somewhere with Qi Ying chasing after her. So she could possibly be headed to Mount Tonglu if the Brocade Immortals headed that way. So there's all sorts of heavenly officials that they could run into. There's all sorts of spirits they could run into as well. I feel like the idea that all of the ghosts from the past are headed to Mount Tonglu will give us lots of chances as an audience to maybe see ghosts that we haven't seen before. Maybe we'll run into Xing. Oh, with Pei Ming there. What if we run into Zhang Ji? What if we run into her? Because she's the one that was wronged by Pei Ming. What if we run into her on the mountain and he's got to deal with that? Ooh, that could be really good. That could be really good. All right. That could be a lot of fun if he runs into her again and she actually gets to see him face to face. Because before it was Pei Su, so who knows, right? There's so many possibilities, and these chapters went by so quickly that I don't know what to do. So I think I will wait until I get a few more comments with the next set that comes out on Patreon and YouTube before I read the next set of chapters. The next set of chapters is going to be chapters 146 to 148, which is a very big chunk, pages 119 to 152. It is going to be like a 40-page chunk of story, so that's going to be a lot. So I'm probably going to wait just a little bit and see what comments I get before moving any further. But y'all, I was fangirling so hard with these chapters. I'm still reeling. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts down below, but I'm so excited to see what's going to happen. And I guess Junwoo just went back to the Heavenly Realm to deal with things and just sent Pei Ming to go keep an eye on him. So we'll see, right? But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, next week we've got a big old hunkin' piece of text to read, and I'm so excited to dive into the next 3 chapters of Heaven Official's Blessing. Bye!